Hello, my name is Michele, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice.
Creating a strategic plan does not have to be difficult or overwhelming. If you followed along in my year-end planning podcast, you have a lot of the inputs to this strategy. If not, no worries, you can do it now. So come with me, let's build a strategic plan.
Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice.
Okay, in my last podcast, episode 129, earlier this month, I shared with you the 5 reasons to have a strategic plan. Here they are as a refresher. Having a strategic plan allows you to choose your direction with intention, work proactively instead of reactively, have the organization work together with clear goals, allow for consistent messaging, and to manage resources effectively. Now, don't we all want that? Yep, you say, I say that too. So how do we do it? So I'm going to start by telling you what I'd love to have in my strategic plan. Remember, I told you we're building these to be workable, not to be beautiful. So don't worry about all the finessing of it. Just get the main details out, and then you can always go back and finesse it. Okay. So I'm going to just list out some of the main pieces and parts that I like in my strategic plan, and then we'll go through each of them individually. I like to have my why and company vision, my mission statement, my core values, my 5-year vision, SWOTT analysis, 3-year milestones, and then yearly goals and objectives. Remember, this is a living document when we're going to be using and managing to each quarter and month, and then also year. Also, the time frame closest to us usually has the clearest goals and action steps. So I keep that in mind while I'm building, meaning I know more about what's in front of me than what's 5 years out. Sometimes the difficulty in creating a plan like this is we're trying to solve problems that are going to happen in 5 years. We like create every problem. So I'd rather you spend that energy focusing on the year ahead of you with an eye to the future. If not, it's like worrying about the job you're going to get when you don't even have a training or degree and you're just starting college. Focus on the thing in front of you. The rest will come. Just work towards it, one step at a time. In episode 125, I indicated how powerful it is to know the core or the why of your business. And this is one of the first things that I put in my strategic plan. You see, at the top of my plan is the description of who the company is. Because just like in that podcast, the strategy is built upon the identity of the company today and in the future. My personal why informs my company why. So that deep nugget or belief that drives them both will be the same, but my company why is focused on the company and not me as an individual. And that way, others are able to get behind the company why. This why is also part of the vision. If you think about it, your why clearly drives where you want to go. It's the big belief that drives the work of the organization for the outputs generated. And the more clearly you can define this, the clearer the path ahead for you and your team. The vision is the combination of what you plan to do and why you plan to do it. Okay. So it's kind of going, it's not the detail of the what, but it's the high level what and why you plan to do it. I'm going to read you my company vision from 5 years ago. So I wrote this in January of 2015, and you'll notice that there are areas where I'm very clear, and then there's some areas where I'm a bit more vague. That's because, again, it was written in 2015, looking forward to where I wanted my company to be in the year 2020. And I didn't know what was going to happen for those 5 years any more than you did. And the closer I got to 2020, the more that vision was turned into action items and to goals. They were made SMART, right, with the SMART method. And that way they supported the vision. And the clearer my vision became. And I can again tell you this, I brought this vision into reality. I've done everything that I said I was going to do in 5 years. And now I'm building another one that will build on top of this. All right, so here it is. This was my 5-year vision written in 2015. It says, my ideal team is small, mostly women, highly skilled in their positions. The goal is to work with independent contractors, women who own their own businesses, not to have a big group of employees. The business will allow me to do my best work, whatever it is at that time. It could be teaching, sharing, speaking, coaching, writing, but it will be flexible and not stagnant in any way. The business will be highly profitable. Top line and bottom line will always be considered. Out of the profit, the business will help support others. This could be in the form of charitable donations or microloans to women. With the flexibility of work product, the business will also be flexible in timing and in location, allowing for travel and offsite work. There will always be time to take care of me and my health, as well as my family and friends. Much attention will be focused on how women see themselves and how they translate their gifts, talents, and abilities into the world around them for their own success. Prayer and biblical consideration will be a daily part of this business and how it grows and operates at every point. And that's it. It gave me a North Star in my company to work towards. And so as I build and as I work with others and as I do things and make decisions, I keep going back. What is my why? What are my values? Where do I want to be? Does this get me closer to where I want to be, or does it take me away from it? We talked about that in the prior podcast. And these statements tell me this is where I said I wanted to be. And here we are in 2021. We've just wrapped up 2020, and I've made every one of those happen. And so, like I said, now I'm building more. What do I want to do even in more detail for the next 5 years? Okay, so let's turn a bit and look at mission statements. The mission statement is the company why and vision in action, meaning it's how you will achieve the vision. So it tells more about the steps that you'll be taking in business. Your mission can shift a bit, right? So every year the mission, even though the overall mission of the company is the same, you may tweak the way that you are delivering. You may tweak the product that you're offering. You may tweak the way that you are engaging with your clients. And so that happens. The mission can shift around as the years go forward. But most often, your why and the company big why and big vision won't change. Again, I like to write out my core values. They're the guiding values for your business. I've asked you all to make note of yours. Write it down, hang them up wherever you see it, and commit to it. My core values are abundance, integrity, faith, and encouragement. In everything I do, I want it to be done in a way that never feels like I'm holding back from somebody. I always hated, taking a course or working with somebody where I felt like they were holding back information. And so I want to work in a way that says there is an abundance. There's plenty of work. There's plenty of information. You do better by sharing than by holding back in some way. And so those I work with should know that we're always working in integrity and in the support, encouragement of those that we serve. And then we work diligently internally as well for all of our processes to flow this way. Okay, so everything to this point is telling who the company is and where we want to be in 5 years. And we can even drill down a bit and create a vision or more detail around it that tells how much revenue and profit the company will make. I did that work in my yearly goal setting because honestly, my vision wasn't about financials. I don't know, I guess maybe you picked up on that, maybe you didn't. I said highly profitable, but I didn't indicate originally 5 years ago what that number was. I let that number grow as I got there because, as I've said on this podcast multiple times, profitability comes in more than just money. I consider myself highly profitable when my clients are highly profitable. It's not about the number that I'm making. It's about, are they using the resources that I'm sharing with them and turning that into profitability for their company? If they are, I'm profitable. So I say that because for some of you, it may be a number that you put there. It's not wrong. But if you don't have that number yet, you can gain more clarity through your goal setting process to create that number. And that's the way I did it. Okay. Going forward now, I might actually put numbers to it in my 5-year vision. But I never want a number like that to drive the way I serve the people that I want to serve. And so for me, that's always been something that I needed to manage. So in my yearly goal setting, I did that. And again, you could add it to your vision. Who your ideal clients are and how you can serve them and will serve them could also be included. Remember, the more you know, the more you document. You can always edit or adjust it or tweak it as you go. When you have all of that down on paper, it's time to move a bit more granular to determine how we're going to get there. If you feel the how overtaking the what and why, I want you to stop and take a breath, because a lot of times we're trying to solve a problem, like I said early on, 5 years out, when we really need to just document. So don't get so caught up in the how we're going to do it in 5 years. I'd rather you get caught up in the how we're going to do it in the next three weeks for the things that you have to do. Okay. So stop and take a breath. Let's commit to the grand business vision before we ever focus on all the goals. Just like we need to choose a college pathway and a major for graduation before we take a bunch of random classes or worry about the job we're going to get. This vision that you and your team have created, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you dedicated not only to the vision, but to the pursuit of it? Because as you know, and I know, this is not a straight path. It's winding and it's weaving and it's up and it's down. And we have got to be dialed in and committed to where we're going if we want to get there. Later, we can build in metrics to determine if we've arrived. But for now, I want you to dream it in as much detail as you can and commit to it. If you're not committed to it, don't go offer it to your employees or your team. You need to be committed to it so that they can be committed to it. Okay, so assuming we are, one thing we want to add in is our SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and trends. And I talked about that a little bit more in the podcast that we just did that were reminding us of how to plan for our year end. My clients do multiples of these a year when working with my team. And in the strategic plan, I would say we're really just wanting to include those that matter the most. So usually that's the overall company SWOT, which should be a compilation of the smaller SWOT analysis from individual departments in your company. And I like to have the SWOT from year to year in the 5-year plan so that you can see at a glance how things are changing and evolving. With regard to goals, I prefer to look at a strategic plan with a combination of goals and milestones. For me, milestones are sometimes easier to identify because once I go into goals, it gets hairy. Again, we start trying to plan detailed goals 5 years out, and that it just doesn't make any sense because things can change so much before you get there. So if I have a 5-year vision for my company, then I might create milestones for year 3 that let me know if I'm on track for 5-year success. So let's say I want to make $1 million in 5 years. Well, maybe I am looking and I'm only making 100,000 now. I'm going to lay out a plan that maybe says I need to be at 700,000 by year 3, if that were a goal, so that I could work my way up. And then a goal, if it were smart, would be more detailed than I might know at the time of creation. That's why I try to plan for the timeframes that are close to me and very smart detail, and those that are further out, a bit more like milestones. And so it becomes a layering approach. It's a living document. Again, it's going to be honestly the same way that you design in a room. You're going to do it by layers. You're not going to walk in and have angst over what accessory you're putting on the bookshelf. You're going to start with the big pieces and the big part and the grand vision of the room. And I'm telling you, the same beautiful skill set that you have to design wonderful spaces can be used to design a business that you want, not just moving day to day and year to year with what comes, but literally creating it because you are dreaming it and you're putting it out there. And I'm not talking about just manifesting something because you thought about it. I'm talking about working for it, but knowing what it is you're working for. Again, for that 1 year right in front of me, I really like to create clear, smart goals. And by smart, I'll say it probably multiple times, but it means that they need to be very specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So I'll ask myself, where do I need to be at the end of year one to be successful in the 5-year plan? That's exactly what I'm going to do as I'm wrapping mine up here. Where do I need to be at the end of 2021, going into 2022 for, where I want to be at the end of 2025? And then what milestone might I need to reach by the end of year 2? And then as I'm planning, again, more detail, the closer it is, more vague detail, the further out it goes. If I were to create it right now, again, my vision would be for the year 2025. I would put in there where I wanted to be by the end of that year, or whatever time frame you happen to attach to yours. Then I would create a milestone for the end of 2023. And often what I see is designers casting a vision, but then trying to do too much at one time in 1 year. And then they've just created overwhelm and stress. And that's not the way we need to do it. We have lives outside of business, and we need to work on the balance and growing our firms and the life we have with family and friends. If 2020 taught us anything, it certainly taught us about family, it taught us about community, and it taught us to hold the ones that we love very, very dear. And we don't want to miss the time doing that by building a business that is ultimately not going to fill that place in our heart. So if I know that I need to plan to, as my kids grow, many of you have reached out and you're doing the same thing that I did. You're growing your business as your kids grow. Well, that may mean that your goals are adjusting as you move forward throughout the next 5 years. If I know, I'll go ahead and indicate the milestones for 2022 and 2024, and then I'll write detailed goals for the year in front of me, 2021. Again, that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. I personally love using the traction method, with big rocks, or a sprint. And then the 12-week year method, which is you look at each quarter as if it's a year. And so you're really only planning one big goal a quarter with smaller goals and action items sprinkled in. While creating all of this can seem overwhelming, I'm going to tell you it brings me a lot of relief. And I do it in stages, and I do pieces and parts. And that's why I started all the way back in November bringing this to you. Do this little bit, do this little bit, do this little bit. All those little bits come together to create this strategic plan. I know that I have a plan and can rest in the fact that it doesn't all have to be done at once. I love to plan for rolling quarters. So I might plan out Q1 through 4 of 2021, and then maybe lightly plan Q1 of 2022. And then when I finish or complete Q2 of this year, maybe I'll plan out Q2 of next year so that it's moving out in front of me. This way, I always have 4 to 5 quarters planned. And as you can see, the closer you get to the time frame, the clearer the vision you have. So use that to your advantage. Once you have this strategic plan, you need to manage and monitor to it. So at least once a year, I'm in there reviewing it, making sure that everything is where it needs to be, what needs to be tweaked. The goals also need to be managed per quarter for the year that you're in. And so sometimes I manage those goals separately, but I do manage back to that strategic plan. If you're in a big growth time, you may actually need to be in that strategic plan every 6 months. But if a plan is done correctly and you're really looking at everything and you're not in some crazy growth cycle, you don't really change it all the time. So, maybe look at it once, twice a year, max once a quarter, and keep going. Here are some quotes to encourage you as you tackle creating a strategy for your company. Pablo Picasso said this: "Our goals can only be reached through the vehicle of a plan. There is no other route to success." Planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now, said Alan Laken. Jim Collins said this: "The real path to greatness, it turns out, requires simplicity and diligence. It requires clarity, not instant illumination. It demands each of us to focus on what is vital and to eliminate all of the extraneous distractions." I love that. That is so true. This plan and doing all the work that I keep encouraging you to do helps you say yes and helps you say no so that you can eliminate those distractions. Graham Edwards said this, and I think it was Dwight D. Eisenhower who said something very similar. But Graham says, "It's not the plan that is important, it's the planning." I hope you found this helpful. And remember, it's not that we are trying to get it all right or get it correct. There is no such thing as perfection here. It's that we're taking the time to dig in and see and measure and consider. And again, like Graham Edwards and Dwight D. Eisenhower both indicated, it's not the plan that counts, it's the planning. My clients are planning and strategizing. They want to have full ownership of their business, and their desire is to be in front of what's coming, not behind it. And they want to do this with as much ease and repeatability and profitability as is possible. They know that it doesn't happen by accident, and it certainly doesn't happen without intentionality, diligence, and looking at it. And you know that too. You're listening right now, and you're either a planner who has done this and seen the power in it, or you're struggling with no clear direction. And I've been on both sides. I much prefer the side of organization, planning, and intentionality in my work. If you're a business owner who desires the same and you want a trusted advisor and coach to guide you in this, please reach out to me. You can find out more by visiting my website at www.scarlettthreadconsulting.com. Plan to be profitable and sustainable, because it doesn't happen by accident.